Good evening and welcome everyone to the Juris Doctor Information Evening. My name is John Page. I am the Program Director for the Juris Doctor or JD program. I'm also a professor in the School of Private and Commercial Law in the Faculty of Law and Justice. And I also teach into the JD program. I teach the core course Land Law. I'll be your host for this evening. The Faculty of Law and Justice is located at UNSW's main campus at Kensington. And before I begin, I would like to firstly acknowledge the Bidjigal and Gadigal peoples of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land upon which we work and study. I recognise their continuing connection to the lands, waters and community, and pay my respect to elders past and present, and extend that respect to any First Nations people joining us tonight. So I'm very happy that you have joined us from across Australia and indeed across the world. And I'm very excited for you to gain some insight into where our Juris Doctor or JD degree can take you in your law career. During this evening, we're going to delve into a number of key issues. First, why you should consider UNSW Law and Justice. Second, what makes our faculty the top-rated law school in Australia. Third, the many facets of law and how these studies can be applied in the real world. And fourth, the JD entry requirements and key information you may need to make informed decisions about your next steps in studying law. Tonight you'll have the opportunity to hear from a JD alumna on their experiences with the program and how it helped them to not only realise the extent of their legal career ambitions, but importantly to achieve them as well. The event will also end with a panel discussion and Q&A with our JD alumna and also a current JD student who will give you an inside perspective of the program and to answer any burning questions you might have. Just a reminder also to please drop your questions into the chat. We have a team behind the scenes who will answer as many of your questions as possible, and we'll also hopefully get to a few as part of the Q&A. So the future of law. Most of you tuning in tonight will have either already completed a degree outside of the discipline of law, or you're about to. Well, I'm here to tell you that there has probably never been a more interesting time to transition into a career in law. Over the past 10 years, there have been royal commissions into the banking industry, institutional abuse and insurance. As a society, we're seeing rapid developments in IT, particularly in areas of AI and cybersecurity, which ultimately require more law and perhaps more regulation. In a post-COVID world, significant litigation and changes to leasing have occurred as people work from home, along with alterations to employment contracts and conditions. The legal system is dynamic, operating in every facet of society. On the global stage, we're seeing changes to tariffs and the management of immigration and refugee law. Maritime law becomes increasingly relevant as global events impact shipping lanes, supply chains, and insurance. The list is truly endless. A law degree is arguably the most versatile qualification a student can pursue. Our Juris Doctor students are recruited into graduate programs across diverse industries and professions. Graduates find opportunities in various sectors, both in the private law profession and beyond, such as government, politics, business, IT, consultancy, and finance. Increasingly, the study of law extends beyond traditional career paths, and obtaining a Juris Doctor degree from UNSW demonstrates our students' capability for success in any field. Recently, the Financial Review reported that law graduates are poised to set a salary record. For the first time last year, the nation's 8 major law firms paid all their Sydney-based graduates at least $100,000 as competition for lawyers defied a broader labour slowdown. So why study your Juris Doctor at UNSW Law and Justice? Our faculty is a global leader in legal education and research. We are ranked number 1 in Australia and number 12 globally, that is in the world, for law and legal studies, according to the QS World University Rankings by subject in 2025. We offer valuable learning experiences from the classroom to the courtroom. Work integrated learning and research integrated learning are embedded in the JD degree, giving you the opportunity to apply skills in a real world context from year 1. UNSW also offers practical legal training, or PLT, through the Graduate Diploma in Legal Professional Practice, a seamless in-house pathway to legal practice. Last, we take great pride in being a diverse cohort of interdisciplinary thought leaders who combine their passion for law and justice with expertise in other disciplines. We embrace a practical application and teaching style to ensure our graduates are prepared to tackle tomorrow's challenges head on. So before we delve into the specifics of the JD program, I would now like to introduce Asaya Chebo, who is the Judicial Registrar Associate and Legal Case Manager at the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia. Asaya completed the JD at UNSW in 2022 and has very kindly agreed to share a bit about her career journey and how studying the JD at UNSW has helped her achieve her career ambitions. So, good evening, Asaya. Thanks very much for joining us. It's great to see you.
Likewise, thank you.
Yes, over to you.
No, I was thinking you might be asking me a question first, but if I want to, I guess a starting point would be a bit about myself. I came into the Juris Doctor degree after already having a career in media and public relations. Back when magazines were a thing, I worked in magazines, Women's Day magazine, and then in public relations at Estee Lauder. And I initially did my undergrad at UNSW in that field. However, I guess I decided that I wanted to come back to uni and take a completely different career path. It was something that was in the back of my mind for a long time, and it did take me about 10 years to circle back to that. But I came back to UNSW and I studied the JD, and now I did a bit of work in private practice as a solicitor, but now I'm currently working at the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia as a Judicial Registrar Associate / Legal Case Manager. It's probably the longest title in the world, but it's essentially, I guess many would know what a Judge's Associate does. It's essentially a very similar role, but in a registrar space, and that is that space in particular has been overhauled in recent years. So it's quite a new job within the courts itself. So yeah.
Yes, that's quite the career transition.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to choose to study the JD in particular at UNSW Sydney?
I chose UNSW because obviously I'd already been there for my undergrad and I had a great experience. But ultimately, when I was looking to see where I should complete a postgrad law degree, there were a number of options that were probably easier as well. However, I chose UNSW based on the fact that I wanted a world-class education, and I didn't necessarily want the easiest way out. I wanted something that was actually going to be of value to me when I do leave university. And I think UNSW for me was it was a no-brainer.
It's great to hear. So how did our program equip you with the skills that you use, I suppose, every day in your present role at the Federal Circuit and Family Court? Yeah,
I think the first thing that comes to mind would be the legal research. I know as a student, we all hated the legal research. They weren't so much electives, but I'm going to call them modules, I guess you could say. And they were the bane of my existence at the time. However, I'm very grateful to them because it was a great way to cut my teeth on those kind of skills, which have been extremely useful to my job now. And it's, to be honest, I feel like that was a prerequisite coming into the court, that there was this expectation that you will have legal research skills, even drafting skills. Although you pick that up in terms of drafting orders at the court, there is an expectation that you will come in with a certain level of written skills that you have refined at university. And I was able to do that as well through undertaking a research thesis as well. So I think that kind of prepared me and set me up to get the job that I'm in now.
Yes, that's true. I mean, we teach these legal skills from the very first course, legal research and writing, and then embed those skills throughout all our courses across the 3 years of the program, and as you say, ending in your case with a thesis as well. So obviously written skills, analytical skills, and speaking skills as well, where a lot of our classes face-to-face, and obviously class participation and speaking and addressing legal issues is an important part of that learning experience. So at your time of study at UNSW, did you meet colleagues, study colleagues who have proved important, or as part of your other wider connections, as part of your study program that has helped you in your career, or have?
No, I definitely
helped?
did. I think the fraternity is actually, it's quite small. So whoever you study with, you do end up kind of circling back as well later on down the track. But even as far as my lecturers, I had my very first lecturer. She was just a regular lecturer, to be honest, but we kind of bumped into each other here and there, and then a bit of a relationship, I guess, grew from there. And she actually, I think last year, was appointed as a local court magistrate. So I guess there's so many different ways of networking that you don't even realise you're doing it. But I think that's just one example of so many of the connections that I made at UNSW that I've continued today. So there's, and I think it's really important that that we do offer face-to-face classes to be able to build those kind of relationships and those connections, because I was actually one of the students that did, when I was in term 1, we'd just gone into lockdown. So I think I went to class for 1 or 2 weeks, and then that was it. And then so I spent a very long time in lockdown. So I really got a feel of what it feels like to be doing it online and what it feels like to be doing it in person. And I think it's really important that UNSW does offer the face-to-face delivery modes, which really help to build that network that you will need later on down the track.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. You know, as a teacher, it's pedagogically, it's the gold standard, that face-to-face context and learning. But also, as you say, being small classes, you really get to know your colleagues, and it gives you this opportunity to build networks, and you take those networks from law school into practice, or into whatever career you choose to use your law degree towards.
And I think another point about the small classes was I found it really, really great, because there was, I think, more support is able to be offered from your tutor when the classes are small, and they really get to, I guess, gauge where their students are at, but also you as a student feel comfortable enough to be asking questions and things like that, because it's quite a, I guess, interactive but small class.
That's right. I mean, that is a defining characteristic of the JD and program at UNSW, is the small class model, this interactive model where it's not the lecture and the tutorial, but it's the seminar style Socratic method where people prepare in advance, and it really, as you say, it's not always the easiest path, but it is the best path for developing your legal skills and becoming a really valuable commodity, I suppose, when you get into the job market. Well, thanks very much, Asiya, for joining us tonight. But you'll still be here, and we'll come back to you when we get to the Q&A panel. But thanks again for sharing your insights and your legal career journey, and how you've achieved what you've achieved so far. That's great. Thank you. So, for those who aren't familiar, the Juris Doctor is a 3-year postgraduate program that you can complete if you've already studied an undergraduate program in a field other than law, or you have completed a law degree at an overseas institution. So the JD takes 3 years to complete when studied full-time. However, our JD offers more flexibility than any other Group of 8 university law degree, allowing students to manage their timetables to fit around work and family commitments. So you can choose between full-time and part-time study, you can adjust your study load from term to term to suit personal and work commitments. Additionally, you'll also have access to career-defining experiences, which include going downstairs and serving your community at UNSW's in-house legal service, the Kingsford Legal Centre, or travelling across the world to, for example, New York, where you can learn from leading international human rights lawyers at the United Nations. While studying at UNSW as a JD student, you'll encounter a wide array of career opportunities from our team of academics who collectively possess extensive backgrounds in the law. Our academics bring with them a wealth of knowledge and experience, not only in understanding how the law operates, but in also grasping why it functions in the way that it does. However, the diversity of this program is not limited solely to our academics. As this is a postgraduate degree, our student cohort comes from a variety of undergraduate backgrounds, as you've just heard, and we'll hear further from other speakers tonight. And this diversity of background and diversity of disciplinary experience contributes to a rich and classroom discussion and experience. Studying law also equips you with a range of soft skills. These include analytical, critical, precise and careful writing and thinking skills. These are skills which are applicable to in any job. You'll learn to problem solve, to view matters from different perspectives, to discern what is relevant to the matter before you and what is not, importantly, to argue persuasively and to present the strongest case possible. We train you to start thinking like a lawyer, which centres on problem solving and critical thinking. However, at UNSW Law and Justice, and we are a faculty of law and justice, thinking like a lawyer also involves understanding context, understanding the society in which law operates. So part of our values, our philosophy, is to place a strong emphasis on this vision of justice for all, and consistently ensuring that our teachings and our learnings and our actions align with this principle. We're committed to social justice at UNSW and making a difference in the world. And tonight, this is our invitation to you to join us in this mission. So how does a JD help you become a lawyer? So a JD, importantly, meets the academic requirements for practicing law in the various Australian jurisdictions. Like an undergraduate law degree, a Juris Doctor covers all the core study areas which are required by the Legal Professional Admissions Board. These are known as the PRUC11, or the prescribed areas of knowledge, which provide a solid foundation in law. These core courses include the study of criminal law, study of torts, contracts, equity and trusts, constitutional law, property law, and more. Apart from the core courses, you'll also complete 8 electives or 42 units of credit as part of your JD degree, which will allow you to explore more specialised areas of study and equipping you with the knowledge and the skills to take your legal career in the direction that you choose that you want it to go, or indeed to complement the insights which you may have gained from your undergraduate degree or your professional experiences. As I mentioned in earlier comments, once you've completed your JD, you must also undertake to become admitted as a legal practitioner, what's known as practical legal training, or the acronym PLT. You must therefore combine your degree with PLT to become a practicing lawyer in Australia. At UNSW Law and Justice, we are one of only a few universities and law schools nationwide to also offer a PLT, or practical legal training program. UNSW's PLT program is the Graduate Diploma in Legal Professional Practice. So once you've completed your degree and you've completed your PLT, you can then apply for admission and start your legal career, whether that involves working as a lawyer in the private sector, for non-profit or community legal centres, for the government, or as an in-house lawyer for a major corporate or startup. your legal career starts here at UNSW. So, as you've heard from some of the conversation we've just had with Asia, what makes studying law at UNSW distinctive and special? And as we've already traversed, a key difference for us is this Socratic method that defines us, an interactive small class seminar style teaching. Our faculties are pioneers within Australian legal education of this student-focused small class interactive teaching model. And this is our badge of honour. This remains a strong and very much defining focus for us. So unlike the traditional large lecture and small class tutorial model, when you study a JD at UNSW, we have seminars which generally and typically comprise either between 35 to 45 students in each class. The expectation in these seminars is that students complete their readings before attending, and then during that class time, they discuss the issues and themes of the topics with both their lecturer and with their student colleagues and peers. So it's a form of teaching which is highly interactive, it's very dialogue-based, it's a very engaging way for our students to learn and connect. And as has been said, it's exclusively this in-person experience. Also, our students, as part of this distinctiveness of UNSW Law and Justice, the JD, is that they spend some time at our very own community legal centre, which is the Kingsford Legal Centre, which is located downstairs in the UNSW Law Building. At KLC, you'll work on real cases with clients while being supervised and learning from in-house and volunteer solicitors. Work integrated learning offers students a unique opportunity to study the theory of law in the classroom while experiencing it in action, providing you with an advantage over other graduates. It also plays a critical role in transforming our law students into ethical, analytical, and engaged legal professionals. We offer a wide variety of clinics and internships as well that you can complete for course credit. So at the end, your finished degree is a highly sought after graduate. If you're keen also to add international experience and global legal knowledge to your study program, UNSW Law and Justice also offers 2 to 3 week overseas elective courses. These electives are available at various overseas locations, often held during the main summer and winter term breaks. So we run short courses in places like New York and the University of California, Berkeley in the United States, Santiago in Chile, Zurich in Switzerland, and also law schools in China, India, and Vanuatu. Or indeed, if you're looking for something a bit longer, we have exchange agreements with over 80 international partners across North and South America, Europe, and Asia. Importantly, UNSW students don't pay any additional tuition fees to the overseas host institution, and your overseas law electives are credited towards your JD degree. So how to apply? Now that you've heard about our JD program, what's the process? Well, entry into the JD is based on academic merit. Students must have completed, as I've indicated, a tertiary qualification, and that can be at a bachelor, master's, or PhD level in a discipline, but a discipline other than law. Or you may have obtained a law degree from an overseas institution. Applications for domestic students, that is Australian citizens, permanent residences, permanent humanitarian visa holders and New Zealand citizens, are processed through the University Admission Centre, or UAC, postgraduate. We also offer a postgraduate Indigenous entry scheme for the Juris Doctor, which is one of many support initiatives aimed at increasing the number of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who enter the legal profession. And before we jump into our panel discussion, I also just wanted to highlight that following on from this information evening, that we will be offering one-on-one consults that will be held later in July. So if you have any further questions from tonight, or if you'd like further details on what you'll be studying as part of the JD, please book in for one of these one-on-one online consultations with myself by using the QR code on the screen. So we are now fortunate to be joined this evening by some of our best and brightest who have kindly agreed to share their experiences and shine a light on what you can expect as a JD student studying with us here at UNSW. Alongside our alumna Asaya, we also have one of our current students, James, who is joining us tonight to provide insights about his experiences with the program so far. So again, don't forget, just a reminder also to please post any questions you may have for us in the chat. We have a team that's working behind the scenes to answer your questions, and we'll also try and share them or share as many of these questions as possible with the panel. So welcome, James. Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. James is one of our current JD students and is also heavily involved with the UNSW Law Society as JD president. So thanks very much. So, and we'll also welcome Asaya back to the discussion as well. So James, are you able to tell us a little bit about your journey into the JD program? You completed an undergraduate degree and what that study was and what made you then want to pursue a degree in law via the Juris Doctor.
Yeah, thanks, John. So prior to the Juris Doctor, obviously because I'm in a JD, I had no legal background. So as mentioned, and a lot of other students in the JD, I came from a non-legal background. So I did my bachelor's, honours and master's degree at the University of Sydney in architecture. I worked in that space for a few years before making the jump into law. And that's where I'm currently at as a second year JD student. So before law, my work in architecture mainly dealt with residential buildings and commercial buildings, getting approval from council. So in New South Wales, the planning system requires every building, whether that be a single dwelling or a 20-story apartment, to receive some sort of development approval. So that's the sort of work that I was doing in architecture. And moving towards law, I have transferred a few skills in this area into my law degree and my law career so far. So I didn't have much issues in navigating the process of the planning system, but a big part of the planning system is the legal side of things, how to get things approved, how to get court approval, council approval. And that's the type of work that I'm doing right now. So try to get past the red tape of council approval, try to quicken the time for people to build. As we know, housing is a very, very dire situation at the moment. So we want to get more houses out. And a fast way to do that is through the court system. And that's what I usually do in my day-to-day work at the law firm. So I currently work as a planning and development law paralegal in one of the teams at Mills Oakley in Sydney. And we help with mum and dads as well as the larger developers to get that approval to start the build for, their dream home or their dream development.
Yeah, thanks, James. So it's really great how you've developed this kind of multidisciplinary approach, that you've used your knowledge and your skills from your previous degree and you've blended them or melded them into your law studies and into your paralegal position there at one of those Sydney firms that specialise in this area of practice. So I suppose that's a great example of building on the skills and experience that you gathered in your first degree, in your undergraduate degree, and I suppose customise to an extent your law studies with the JD. So also, James, why UNSW? What made you decide to study your JD with UNSW Law and Justice, given that you did your undergraduate degree elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I was asking myself this not too long ago. So I'm a second year student, so I was in a lot of these students' positions a year and a half ago. I actually got offers from both UNSW and USyd for their CSP positions. So obviously two great universities, but the main factor that drew me to UNSW was the way we teach law. So, John, you mentioned before the Socratic method. Class participation is a big part of UNSW JD studies. Being able to interact with your professor, being to interact with the small class size, so other students in the class, allows you to learn the content a lot easier, I think a lot better, and also allows you to apply those content that you learn in the classroom experience. Compare that to universities like USyd. John did mention that you have large groups or large lecture halls, and USyd is one of those universities that, although it's a great university, they do teach a little bit differently. So that's a big comparison between USyd and UNSW, and I found when I was applying for law school that UNSW had that appeal. So to have that interaction with your professors and with your other students, I think was a very good way to learn the law.
No, thanks, James. Yes, I think that is, we've said this several times, but this is a really defining feature of studying law at UNSW, this interactive seminar style model that departs from that kind of person at the front of the lecture theatre, sowing the seeds of knowledge out into the lecture theatre, and but people really getting engaged with their topics, with their learnings, and the professor and their study colleagues. So yeah, thanks very much. So if I could steer the conversation back to you, you gave us a great background, thank you, of your JD journey earlier, but I'm curious to know, what was the biggest step change that you experienced in terms of professional mindset and practices from your former career, which was in marketing and magazines, to being a legal practitioner in the court system?
I think the biggest change would be in my previous roles, especially in public relations. It was quite consumer driven, and it's almost superficial in a way. And I mean, the best way to describe it, a lot of people actually ask me when I worked in magazines, was it really like The Devil Wears Prada? And it actually was. So that was when I was in magazines, but then when I was at Estee Lauder, quite literally our biggest priority would be, what lipstick are we launching this season? And so it's very, very different to where I am at now. As much as I loved it, I think that was a great job when I was younger. I really loved being in that industry when I was in my 20s, but then as you mature, you kind of want something that's a bit more rewarding. And so where I am now, I guess the mindset is really different, because my biggest problem is no longer what lipstick I'm launching, it's dealing with people's real life issues, whether it be a divorce or whether when I was in private practice, it's someone's liberty because, you're running a bail application. Even at the moment where I am at the courts, I'm in a specialist chambers where we are the only chambers that deal with high level of abuse in Sydney, and there's quite a few criteria to get into our docket, but the mindset is very, very different, but at the same time it's also very rewarding. And there was actually a period where I questioned whether, when I was doing the JD, actually, am I really doing this because I want to do it? And I kind of wasn't sure, but by the end of it, I kind of came full circle, and now I definitely realize it was what I wanted to do. And despite how different it was to my initial career.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I think that's such a significant thing about the mindset in legal practice, is that you really are making decisions, whether it's for in people's lives and their families, for their businesses, or their property, which are really critical. And this is, part of the very satisfying when things go right. This is a very satisfying part of the practice of law. So if I could stay with you, Hasaya, and just ask, once you commenced your studies in the JD program, what was the most challenging part of the degree, and how did you overcome any challenges that that threw up or that posed?
I think, well, the biggest challenge was firstly going back to uni as a mother of 2 children, and then I hadn't done any study for at least 10 years at that point. So it was rewiring my brain to remember how to study, and then also juggling my commitments outside of uni. And I think the key to managing that is being realistic about expectations. By all means, you can study, you can work, you can have a family, but I think you need to be able to prioritize and manage your time. So you might not necessarily, for me, for example, I started off doing a part-time load, and then I gradually increased that to a full-time load, just because I needed to test the waters and see how I could manage everything. And I think another important thing is communicating with your lecturers. So I did that from the very beginning. I was quite transparent, even if it was something as small as saying to my lecturer, hey, I'm enrolled in your course, but do you mind if I don't buy the textbook for the first 2 weeks, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to manage the workload. I'm just going to, test it out, and I actually didn't end up dropping. I ended up buying the textbook and staying, but it was just that communication with the teacher, and then they kind of give you a bit of advice as well. And I found out that this particular teacher had done the JD, and she was the mum of 5 children, I think it was. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, if you've done it with 5 kids, I'm sure I could do it with 2 then. So I guess, yeah, it's being realistic, but also a lot of communication with your lecturers, and yeah.
No, thank you. That's really great advice. I mean, I do think it's a forum in this interactive seminar style method of teaching, which encourages approachability, that you do get to know, or the opportunity at least is there for you to get to know your lecturer. And I think that reaching out and making those contacts with your lecturer can be rich and rewarding in terms of just enhancing your learning. And I think that's also a very important point that is, a common thread through our JD students, this kind of balancing of time commitments, of family, of work. And this is the kind of flexibility that you see with the JD degree at UNSW, that you have obviously this ability to up or down your study load. Or indeed, we offer with our core courses in the evening classes a blended model where one class is face-to-face and the second is then offered as an online via Teams. So flexibility, communication, I think they're really important things and skills which you need to, and challenges that you need to deal with in that program. So, James, if I could just pivot back to you, you're a current JD student. How do you make the most of your time in law school?
Yeah, it is. Law school is a great opportunity to get out there and then do as much as you can. So at UNSW Law, we offer so many different opportunities, whether that be competitions in mooting or negotiations, mediations, these type of competitions, and we actually do internal competitions in those forums, as well as having the opportunity to do external competitions. So we have teams that go to Vienna or teams that go to Paris for mediations. So it's a great opportunity to get out there and really understand the options that you have outside of law school. And also, these types of competitions are much needed within the practice of law. If you want to be a barrister in the future, mooting is a very highly dependent skill. You need to talk to the judge, you need to advocate for your client. Mediation, not just in law, but in everyday day-to-day life. You want to negotiate a price of a book or a price of an apple, you can do that. And these are all skills that you can be taught in the extracurriculars in the law school. balancing academics and internships as well. As Sia mentioned and John mentioned as well, we do offer very flexible class times. So for me, because I work 3 days a week, I need to stack my classes in 2 days, which means 6 hours of classes, 2 days a week. So my weekdays are really gone. But you also have the option of staggering your classes 4 days a week in the mornings or in the evenings, if you would like. It all depends on how you study the best, and the options are there for you to really facilitate to move around in your timetable. What works for you is going to be, and it's going to make you study the most, study the best. So I think we have very wide opportunities as well.
Yes, thank you. Well, I suppose, thanks, James. Your life exemplifies this kind of need to balance work, study, and other commitments. So it's great that it can all work out. And so also to take up the other opportunities that exist as being part of a very vibrant law school. So as part of our degree, you'll see that the program involves 96 units of credit of these core courses that you must undertake. There's one prescribed theory elective, and then there's 42 units of credit or 7 courses which are electives. And that allows students in the later stages of their degree to pivot, I suppose, to areas of the law that that they think they have an interest in, or have indeed may have driven their decision to sign up for the JD. So, Asaya, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to decide between different areas of law, that you're required to complete these prescribed areas of knowledge, these core courses, the land laws, the criminal laws, the torts, the contracts, and so on, but you also have a very large range of elective choices at UNSW. Were there particular areas of law that you decided to choose in your choice of electives?
I always said that I wanted to go into family law, so I did choose family law as an elective. However, I actually didn't choose the second, I think it's family advocacy or something like that. I didn't choose that one, but I did pick a lot of variety of electives. I think I did IP, juvenile justice, and quite a broad range of electives, which I'm glad I didn't actually solely kind of focus on the family law aspect of things, because I mean, to date, I've only been able to practice in criminal law and family law, and then dabble in a bit of, what I had done at Kingsford Legal, which offered a bit of a nice segment of other areas of law. But if it weren't for my electives, I haven't really had the opportunity to experience other areas of law. So I feel like that was quite valuable to get that good cross section while I was at uni. And I'd probably recommend doing the same, just picking a lot of different electives that you may not necessarily want to practice in it later on, but it might be your only opportunity to ever get a feel of it. So I'm definitely glad I did it that way.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, and I mean, we do have a very broad range of electives that go across all areas of law, and so it's a smorgasbord approach. You can choose something that interests you, or you can focus in on areas of law that you think your career direction is going to head towards. So we might now shift to taking some questions from that might be coming through the live stream or in the chat. So thanks to everyone who has posted into the chat this evening. But before, please, if you have some questions, type them in. But before they start flowing in, a question to both or either of you. So law is a very competitive industry. It's not something to be glossed over. What support is there for students who are trying to get experience, for example, with big firms before they graduate, to help ensure that they will stand out as a prospective employee, as a graduate?
I can answer this one. I think
Thanks, James.
academic is one part of it.
Yes.
It's a very big part of the law degree, but you have so many different facets of the law school that you can take advantage of. So mooting, like all these skills or competitions that you can compete in, I think employers really look favorably in those areas. If you want to take on leadership positions in the law society, there's a lot of executive positions that are up for grabs each year, and that shows that you can not only study well in the classroom, but also lead outside. And that's a very key skill in a lot of big firms, being able to manage your workload and also manage those people around you in the case where you need to be delegated tasks or to delegate tasks even. So I think the transcript all show your work in the law society. It shows your commitment to extracurriculars. So it's not just the grades, although it does have a big part of getting into those big firms. They also look at a more all-rounded approach as well.
No, thanks.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
sorry, John. I was just going to say I can probably add to that there's a lot of resources there. You just have to look for it, and even something as small as you know, when I remember it was introducing law and justice. My lecturer, she posted up a whole list of, you know, associations or organisations that you could join as a student for free. And I remember thinking, oh, I probably won't ever join anything like that. I don't have time for that. But I actually, somehow I ended up joining one of the associations, and one of them was the Women Lawyers Association of New South Wales. I'm currently on the executive of that, but we often do events with the UNSW Law Society as well. So we did one about a month ago, which is for students. It was hosted at UNSW, and we had a number of judges coming in, a number of guest speakers on a panel, and so the opportunities are there. And I think just getting involved as a student opens up doors that you may not even necessarily realise it. It's just, it could be a conversation with someone that you have at these kind of events. There's a lot of opportunities that just, I guess, from being immersed in the university and speaking to your lecturers, doing the courses, that you will come across these opportunities. And it's not necessarily even, you know, to get experience with big firms. I was never one that was wanting to go down the clerkship pathway. Yeah. But it still helps, irrespective, to do all these kind of extracurricular things, which UNSW does offer as well. Yeah,
that's yes, it's taking up opportunities, and as you say, and as James has also said, to kind of do things that make you stand out as well, and display qualities like leadership. That's very interesting. And also, the law, or the study of law, has got this very strong reputation for being having a very heavy workload, lots of readings, lots of preparation. Is that something which you've found, either in the past or currently, that's something which is manageable for a student who also has to spend time working, juggling the demands of family and other commitments? Is it manageable to deal with the high levels of reading and so on, that in preparation and assignments and so on, that's expected as part of a law degree?
It's definitely manageable, but again, it just requires taking on a bit of personal responsibility and being realistic about what your expectations are. Even now, I currently work part-time, so that's because I value having a work-life balance, and as much as work is a priority, my family is also a priority, and I've always sort of maintained that, hence why I did start at UNSW as a part-time student. However, towards the end, I did kind of ramp up to full-time, but it's definitely manageable. As I said, it's not easy, but you know, it's worth it in the end. And it's still definitely manageable. I mean, I did it with 2 children, but it did take a lot of planning, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of delegating to family members as well, asking, you know, can you pick up this kid or take this kid to swimming lessons? But you get there in the end. And you know, it was just as much as an achievement for me as it was for my family as well, because it took a village, I guess. But again, it just comes down to the planning.
That's great to hear. And James, you're a current student. You work 3 days a week at a city law firm, and you turn up for class well prepared and participating. So how do you manage that balance?
Thank you, John. I do try to prepare for class, even though it might not look like it in your landlord class. But it is tough. 6 hours of class every 2 days a week, and then 9 hours of work the rest of the week. So you have to really manage your time. As Asia said, calendars are your best friend. So I like to make blocks for each thing that I need to do, and there's 2 reasons to that. The first reason is to really understand how much you need to do, and the second reason is if you're very stress driven, you look at your calendar, you say, oh no, I need to do 2 weeks of readings this week to catch up.
Yeah.
And falling behind is not the issue. It's really catching up and really getting to the course content and really understanding what you need to know for the class. So I think Google Calendar, making sure that you have enough time, of course for family, of course for personal, your hobbies.
Yes.
But also enough time to make sure that your readings are done on time, because if you don't do your readings, you can't participate in class, and that's a very large portion of your grade.
Yeah, thanks, James. They're great insights. So to the people behind the scenes, Steph, or do we have any questions that are coming in from the chat live stream that the panel can be there here and able to answer? Maybe I'm in the wrong spot, but they're not kind of coming into me. So if any could be read out, that'd be great. So thanks. So one question, how realistic is it for a 50-year-old to do a JD and start a successful career in, say, human rights law? Perhaps I should answer that, because I might be the closest to 50 years old. But like there's never too late. You know, it's never too late to fulfill your dreams and to fulfill your kind of career aspirations and goals. You know, we have, as a teacher in that program, as well as being the program director, I mean, I see a huge diversity across the cohort, and we do indeed have students who are starting their JD and they're, you know, 50 years old, and they've got a wealth of experience which they bring to their studies, to their class interactions, to their interactions with other people. And I really think that that's that experience, that life experience is extremely important and extremely valuable in the law, because it is a profession that deals with people, and you know, by dealing with people, you need that kind of wisdom. There's not too many advantages of having hair my color, but this is it. I've got another question. I'm a law student in India. I wish to pursue JD from UNSW. I wanted to seek information about employment outcomes after JD from UNSW, particularly for international students who require visa sponsorships. So I suppose it's about employment outcomes after completing the JD. James or Isaiah, any responses there?
Yeah, so employment opportunities always, oh, sorry, Asia.
No,
always,
you go.
It's always tough to find, and you have to be a little bit lucky. But UNSW offers a great resource in that they have the team at UNSW to help you search for the right role, to help you search for the right internship. And also being in the Law Society really helps if you want to, say, be involved in public law, administrative law, or even like private law. So your corporate, criminal, these type of law niches, they also have their own law fairs that you can participate in. So it's a bit of luck, but it's also a lot of you going out there and making sure that your name is seen and you're standing out. So one way that I got my current job is I got it even before my first class at UNSW. I reached out to someone in the firm and I said, I've got a background in architecture. I've got a background in planning, and I'm going to study law for the next 3 years. And I really want to be in this law niche. I want to be a lawyer, and I want to be a planning lawyer. And he gave me a chance, and I proved myself, and I'm still here after a year and a half. So that's the luck part of it. There needs to be a position, but you need to also put yourself out there.
Thank you. So we're really approaching the end of our session. It's nearly 7 o'clock, so we'll wrap up. But I also wanted to remind everyone here this evening about these postgraduate one-on-one consults, which will be with me as the JD Program Director. The QR code is now back on the screen. If you can link from that QR code, you can find all the information about the one-on-one consults, and I really look forward to talking with you in these one-on-ones that, to deal with more specific questions that you may have in relation to the JD program. So look, on behalf of the panel, thanks very much for joining a UNSW Juris Doctor Information Evening. And of course, there's a link also that's just appeared in the chat, also that you can direct further questions to the future student advisors. And that link is in the chat box now. So thanks, Isaiah, thanks, James, thanks to the whole team behind tonight's JD Information Evening. I hope that you've found it useful and informative, and you've got greater perspectives and insight into studying law and studying the JD in particular at UNSW Law and Justice. And I look forward to talking to some or many of you through this postgraduate one-on-one consult, the details of which are now currently on the screen. So thanks everyone, good night. I hope you have a pleasant evening.